our science fair project is called Don't Mess With Our Groundwater.
All over the world, people throw trash in the nature and no one picks it up again. But do we really know what the consequences are, and would we stop if we knew?
So, in our science fair, we investigated in what consequences throwing trash and waste in the nature has on our groundwater. Groundwater is our living stones, and we use it basically every day, multiple times a day. We simply cannot live without our groundwater. In Denmark, we are really lucky to have some of the cleanest groundwater, and we are very proud of it. However, if we keep throwing batteries and other chemicals in the trash, it will affect the groundwater and with that, all living things.
Especially batteries are a big problem. Maybe you've seen the commercial in the TV where a woman finds a battery in the bin and tells her husband, "Don't fuck with my groundwater." Well, in our experiment, we tested the effects of batteries on the groundwater, but that's for later. So, why is it so important to keep the groundwater clean?
Well, as I said before, for us, groundwater is our most important resource. For us to have access to clean groundwater is an important need, both for us, the animal kingdoms, in water and on land, and of course our plants. For us, clean groundwater has a big influence on our daily life. As mentioned before, we use it every day for bathing, cleaning, drinking, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm pretty sure you can mention some that I haven't mentioned. Every day, tons of clean groundwater is pumped up from the underground. From the waterworks, it flows through pipes to school, houses, nurseries, swimming halls, and hospitals, and many more places.
97% of our drinking water is gathered from the underground. Our groundwater is so clean when we drag it up that it doesn't need to go through a cleaning process before being pumped out to the user. However, it will not stay this way for very long if we do not start thinking more about what we put where. For an example, if you bought a can of paint, then used 3/4 of it and didn't need the rest, most people will turn the rest in for a deposit, but there are people out there who would just throw it in the trash can and never think about how much damage it can cause. After being transported to the incineration plant, the place where our trash is burned, it will be burned with all the other trash from our trash cans. When paint is burned, it leads out lots of health-damaging chemicals, but that's a whole other problem. When the paint remainers have been burned, it's put and buried in the ground, like all other trash. However, it's not supposed to be there. After some years, or maybe even less, the can will leak and the paint will sink into the underground. Can you imagine that in maybe 50 years or so, the water that we drink might have a small percentage of paint in it? In the end, it can be damaging to the body, even though it's such a small percentage.
Many people throw their batteries in the trash can, just like I mentioned before. When they then reach the incineration plant, they are burned and then buried in the ground. When it rains, burnt and crushed leftovers of batteries sink into the ground and will eventually end up in the groundwater. Therefore, we really need to stop throwing the wrong things in the wrong places.
In our experiment, we wanted to find out how groundwater is affected by different things that end up in the nature. Things like, for example, batteries, windshield wash, and other chemicals. Our idea was to contaminate some water, then irrigate it to some plants and see how the plants react, to find out what our future plants might look like.
Okay, so as you can see here in the pictures, we have a plant named A, B, and C. So we took 3 containers, cut them all in half. In one of the halves we made a small groundwater system, and in the other one we grew sunflowers. In A, we just grew grass and water with normal water as the groundwater should look like. That was because we wanted to compare the other plants with the clean groundwater. In B, we made a mix of turpentine, windshield wash, engine oil, and petrol, and poured in 50 milliliters to simulate the kind of waste we make unconsciously by driving our car. Say your windshield is a bit dirty and you spray it with the windshield wash. Eventually it will rain, and the rain will then wash the windshield wash off, and the windshield wash lands on the asphalt. Then once again it rains, and then the rain goes into the sewers, and then the windshield wash will then become a part of our groundwater cycle. By making this experiment, we wanted to find out if that benefited the plants or not.
In number C, we put 4 different batteries. Many more people than you might think throw their old used batteries in the trash. This is bad because when the trash that you throw in the trash can end up at the incineration plant where it is burned. As mentioned before, after a very short period of time, the metals in batteries, the batteries will leak and the metals in them will sink into the underground and become a part of the groundwater cycle as well. Our experiment took a lot of care and there were many different steps for each container. So we decided to make a small video of us taking care of the experiment.
Okay, so right off the bat, you can see we started by measuring the plant. Nicolini did that, and I took the measurements, and afterwards we put all the measurements in the table you can see over here.
We actually had 9 plants all in all because we did the experiment 3 times, but we only measured the ones we have with us today in this video.
So this is number A, which is this one. So the water might not look clean like the one we drink, but it would be the cleanest one for us to drink and compared to the other ones.
You can see the color. Number B was the one with the turpentine, windshield wash, engine oil, and petrol.
Okay, so from the quality it might look yellow, but it was more like a white substance. If you come up close, you can see little white spots and dots in the water. And as I'm reading here, it smells very bad, so I would advise you not to smell it. If, you know.
Number C was the one with different batteries.
It might not look clear on the quality of this video, but if you imagine cola and you imagine the color of that, you would basically have what it would look like on a normal day. It didn't really smell bad, but there wasn't really any smell to it. But yeah.
Now we put some of the mix of turpentine, windshield wash, petrol, and engine oil because the mix just ran out with the water every time, so we had to put some new in. Yes.
Okay, so we of course soon began noticing small differences in our experiment. For example, as I noticed before, B had a very bad smell from the start. You would actually think it smelled chemically because we fed it all these chemicals, petrol, engine oil, so vice versa. But it didn't really smell that chemically. It more had a bad smell as if something bad had been put in it and it just became bad over the night.
We also noticed that only A grew algae. As mentioned, A was the cleanest of them all in terms of chemicals and metals, so that's probably why. We also noticed that B grew the tallest and C grew the smallest.
Okay, so our conclusion of this experiment is that, of course, as you can see, B is the tallest plant. In our hypothesis, we actually wrote that we thought B wouldn't become as tall as it actually is because of all the, as mentioned many times now, all the chemicals we fed it. But surprisingly it did, and the reason why is because we put all the engine oil and the petrol in, or gasoline. That was then washed away by the windshield wash and the turpentine. It left the soil with the perfect quality, and this was in a greenhouse, so it had the perfect temperature all through this experiment. As we expected from our hypothesis C, this one, became the smallest of them all. As you can see, its leaves are hanging and there have been holes in some of them. This is because, oh wait, sorry. But it was, our conclusion is that the water and then the contaminate water is perfect for growing plants, but the metals and the batteries like lithium, mercury, and lead damage the appearance of the plants by giving them a withered and flaccid leaves.
A grew the way a normal plant irrigated with normal water would, just as we expected in our hypothesis. It did not grow very tall, as you can see, but it is healthy and it has nice looking leaves. As mentioned, A was the only one where algae could grow, so both in B and C no algae were found. If we were to do this experiment again, we would use vegetables instead of sunflowers, just to see how contaminated groundwater affects the plants that we eat, and maybe we would have a taste test. So maybe you're thinking, what will they do with the toxic waste they made in those containers? Well, we could just throw it into the neighbor's garden and let it be their problem, but then this presentation would have no point. Of course, we've thought of a way of how we're going to get rid of it.
Okay, so of course, after we're finished with the Science Fair project, we will of course give up our plants in the most environmentally correct way, doing the following. So first of all, we of course sort out the batteries from the dirt and then turn them in on the waste dumping center. The containers with the batteries, windshield wash, engine oil, turpentine, petrol have been in will also be turned in for deposit. The bottles that have been used as water containers, these ones, they will also be turned in at the waste dumping center. The last container, which was also only with the clean drinking water, empties out in the garden, and then the containers will be turned in at the waste dumping center as we found them when we started this project.
Thank you for listening to our science fair.